to you, Mr. Morgan.
Hi, good morning, Tyrone. Good morning to the listeners as well. Let me just take the opportunity before I embark on my intervention to wish for your CEO and leader, Mr. Cliff Hughes, all the very best. I understand he's on the mend, and I wish for him a complete and timely recovery.
Absolutely. We are thankful, sir.
So I've touched base, Tyrone, to cut to the chase. I would have heard your opening commentary, concur with much of it. I'm seeking, however, to provide a bit of context and some texture, because you were spot on to the extent that Jamaica had cooler temperatures descending and hovering over us, certainly commencing at the weekend and extending into earlier this week. So much so that even persons like myself, I'm a big body guy and I am very difficult to feel cold. And to the extent that it caused me to be feeling chilly at points at the weekend and earlier this week, it gives you a sense as to just how low the temperatures got here in Jamaica. And one would expect certainly school leaders and stakeholders generally to be particularly mindful of that and exercise certain degrees of discretion, notwithstanding one's own local level school rules. So I'd want to first and foremost commiserate with those parents and more so the children who reportedly would have been deprived of their warm gear at a particular school. I don't necessarily want to get into naming and recrimination. Suffice it to say, the ministry has...
Why not say that? That's a part of the problem.
Because
we're not naming and shaming the individuals and the institutions. It took quite a bit of time before the name of the school actually came out. But why not? This is a part of the cloak that allows this kind of poor administration to continue, because we hide it under the secrecy. We don't want to call the school's name.
No, and it's not so much a matter of hiding under. It's a matter of the spirit. You find that you would have expected a principal, in this case reportedly, as the person who has superintendence over a school plant, to operate in a certain way and exercise discretion and do what is practical. And of course, you have the best interest of the children at heart, certainly where, children wearing warm gear to school is concerned. So, but the spirit of my intervention is to make the point that a bulletin has been issued to the system, and importantly, we're impressing upon our school leaders as persons who have charge over, not just teaching staff and non-academic staff, but more importantly, the young people entrusted to their care, in keeping with that which is set out, the obligation set out in the Child Care Protection Act and, of course, the education regulations.
You're with the ministry. Could you remind my listeners, because you're also a government senator, but you're also with the education ministry. Could you remind my listeners of your capacity at the education ministry, Senator?
That's right. So I serve as parliamentary secretary in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, where I provide support to our portfolio minister, Senator Dr. Honorable Dana Morris Dixon.
So you are part of the leadership cadre at the ministry. Which school are we talking about here, Minister, that ran afoul of the rules this time?
I'm advised that it was Angels Primary, but
what's the name of the principal?
Well, I didn't even commit it to memory, to be honest.
You did. Because, are you concerned, Mr. Morgan, about the lack of critical thinking that seems to be taking place in these schools? Children turn up to school and they might be running afoul of the dress code, and the knee-jerk reaction is to lock them out of the school, or to send them home. Here, let's take away their jackets during a cold front. It screams a lack of critical thinking, because there are so many other things that you can do before you get to that point. Yeah. Are you concerned about that as a leader, as a member of the leadership team?
I'm absolutely so concerned. In other words, it would be remiss of me and quite negligent of me not to be, absolutely concerned and perturbed, quite frankly. And I'll tell you why. We know that there are slips between the proverbial cup and the lid, and which is why you seek to have protocols, you seek to have rules, regulations, and policies, yes? But you know that there are some things that may not necessarily be definitively spelled out in a particular policy or in a protocol, and you would expect now the human element to be brought to bear in those circumstances. And in this case, even in instances where a school has a designated warm gear, whether it's a vest, whether it's a jacket, a coat, you name it, and a student in the context of an unprecedented wave of cold front. We know what is happening up north in relation to the winter storm and just the winter freeze, basically. To the extent that that is the case, you would expect that a school administrator would be particularly considerate and discerning enough to exercise judgment which would cause a student not to be deprived of warm gear. Because some of these students, as you can appreciate, Tyrone, may have health conditions that would put them at particular risk, you know, in terms of catching a cold or coming down with any other exacerbated medical situation.
I think the ministry has an all-star team. The three of you I named, Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon, the minister, Rhoda Moore Crawford as the Minister of State, and your good self as Parliamentary Secretary. I think that's an all-star team. You are three of the best and brightest available to the wholeness administration. What are you going to do beyond issuing a bulletin? What kind of action can Jamaica expect? Because we've seen this type of activity far enough. And the truth is, you can make a case that this was a case of abuse of the child or the children involved. Because given the cold temperatures, if you strip a child of their sweater for the entire
warm gear, yeah.
Surely you can make a case for this being a case of abuse of the child's rights or of the child. So what are you going to do beyond merely issuing a bulletin almost close to 2 days after the matter was first reported? What kind of action is the ministry going to take?
We issued the bulletin yesterday. I gather that this matter was on social media sometime in the afternoon on Monday, but suffice it to say, we have taken note. Could the response have been a bit more prompt, or could have been much prompter, as it were? The answer is an absolute yes. But as you can appreciate, when these things happen, one has to undertake their own fact-finding and verification attempts, and of course intervene as appropriate. In terms of this specific issue, Tyrone,
yes, sir, you are very versed in communications. You know you can come forward and say the ministry is seeking to ascertain the details, and then we'll be taking the appropriate actions. Remaining silent for that period shouldn't be the response. And I find that it's a similar approach that was taken after the child was abducted from the private facility. Come out and say to the public, we are gathering the facts, we are aware of the situation. It shows that you're in command of your brief.
Well, absolutely. I concur with that and take that fully on board. What I'll say, though, in this instant case,
we're going to what the ministry is going to do beyond issuing the bulletin. That's
the principle,
please tell us that.
Which is what I'm venturing to know. The principal at a school is employed not to the ministry per se, but to a school board and employed by a school board, right? If there is any action, certainly concerning the conduct or lack thereof on the part of the principal, the school board is the outfit that is appropriately placed and situated from a school governance standpoint to intervene and ensure that it undertakes its own fact-finding and seek to bring the matter into sharp focus, which may include disciplinary or other punitive action. But just to be clear, it wouldn't be for me in my capacity as a member of the political directorate to impart or extend a prescription as to action, certainly where punitive action on the part of the principal is concerned. But suffice it to say, the ministry, as you alluded to in your opening commentary, Tyrone, is embarked on amendments to the education regulations, which is designed, among other things, to make them more suitable to the times and just effect some remedy based on our own experiences in the past with egg regs, not least not least, to adjust the composition of school boards and accord the minister responsible for education in the country with certain powers vis-a-vis intervening where schools have, either broken down or are requiring intervention, because we know that we have had complaints time and again in relation to the stewardship of some school leaders in instances, and indeed members of staff, whether they're academic staff or non-academic staff at schools.
In other words, if I'm hearing you, I mean, so we have to take a break. I want to come back and clear this up. If I'm hearing you correctly, there is nothing that the political directorate can do to hold this principal accountable. It's out of your hands. That is what I'm hearing from you. When we come back from this break, I want you to tell us if that's what you're saying. This is Cliff Hughes Online. We take a break and come. It's the amendments or proposed amendments, and this has been around for some time. Talk of amending the education regulation. It's been around for a little while, and it definitely needs amendment. But there's nothing that the political directorate, neither yourself, the Minister Dana Morris Dixon, Dr. Morris Dixon, nor State Minister Rhoda Moore Crawford can do to hold this principal accountable. There's nothing you can do. Senator Morgan? It seems we've lost Senator Morgan. Dana? Pardon me about Dana. Nora, have we lost Senator Morgan? Well, it appears we've lost him. In my mind, I think I want to adjust something, correct something. I thought this issue was around since Friday. I gathered reported it on Tuesday, and but you heard it from Marlon Morgan that it hit the public domain on about Monday, he says, on about Monday. So I want to be correct on that. So in my mind, I think I heard of it from Friday, but I could be wrong on that. So they just to point out that the minister has highlighted that it was from about Monday. So yes, just to ensure that we're sharing the facts. All right. I think we have Countryman on the line. Countryman, are you there? No, Countryman not there either. Oh, the minister is back. Senator is back. Senator?
Terrible, sorry about that. I got discussed.
No, man, that's okay, man. So there's nothing the members of the political directorate can do right now to hold the principal accountable, given the current construct of the education regulations.
I would want us to conflate two things, because what I articulated earlier is about the definitive mechanism that we have in place from a legislative standpoint via the education regulations and the powers of a school board. That's what I commented on earlier. What I'll say to you at present, though I am not the portfolio minister, that authority essentially resides in the portfolio minister, Dana Morris Dixon. The minister can from time to time, and is empowered so to do under the Education Act, to ultimately craft and formulate policies that can be advanced to cabinet with a view to have cabinet making a determination as to appropriate actions or powers that may be brought to bear from time to time to effect adjustments at schools. The ministry at this time is embarked on amendments, substantial amendments to the existing education regulations. It is an undertaking that has been some time in coming over successive administrations. It has been talked about. We are far advanced at present in so doing, and there's an aspect of that I was touching on earlier, in that our portfolio minister, consequent on the amendments we are coming with, will be fashioning a mechanism for intervention in relation to schools. But separate and apart from that, as members of the political directorate, we can also formulate directives and guidance to schools for the good order and management and functioning of our schools. And a part of the response came yesterday insofar as that bulletin to the system, because it is a mechanism that, schools can avail themselves of. Our bulletin feature is how we correspond generally in quick fashion and in quick time to the school system across Jamaica.
A lot of people might say these are empty bullets. The ministry is firing blanks because these things keep recurring, Minister. But let's follow you along this line of there is a mechanism available for the political director to take some kind of action with the minister going to cabinet. Is that being contemplated at this time? That's my first question. And then I want you to respond to whether or not the chairman of the board of the school has been summoned by the minister.
So, well, just to be clear, insofar as my indication just now about the amendments on which we embarked, it is safe to say that this very matter that we're talking of and matters like it is a part of the contemplation vis-a-vis effecting some remedy and fixes insofar as our education regulations. So the short answer to that, in terms of our portfolio minister advancing to cabinet, that is in the affirmative. In relation to the school board operates under would have been appointed by the minister. The National Council on Education has a role to play in relation to school boards. Our minister is away on official government business just now, but I too will bring this matter to our attention in a forceful way, and she will have a determination to make in relation to this particular school board, given this instant case, without prejudice, of course, to any proceedings.
So the board chairman has not been summoned as yet?
No, man, I'm not saying that, my brother. I was speaking in relation to the minister.
I'm getting to this question now, though. Has the board chairman been summoned by the ministry?
Well, I'm not in a position to confirm whether that has been done, because the ministry
that's fine. I can accept that. I can accept that.
But just for the benefit of the listeners, though, each school is superintended by a designated education officer based on the quality education circle, the political constituency, the geographic area within which they're situated. And separate and apart from the EO, you have an entire chain of command in relation to our schools, not least the regional office. In this case, it would be Region 6, which comprises the parish of St. Catherine.
Would you be able to say what the regional officer has done as yet, and if they're in contact with the chair?
In relation to that, because I know the entire team would have taken the matter under advisement, which is why it culminated in a directive, a bulletin being issued to the system. Yes, and I wouldn't want to be preemptive one way or another of the intervention or response of the school board itself. Suffice it to say that the minister has a certain remedy at her disposal, which, as I undertook to do earlier, I will be treating with the get that matter in terms of making certain recommendations. But it is for her call ultimately.
My super producer is reminding me that we heard this from the minister last year about the amendments coming. When exactly will this happen? Do we have a time?
So just to be clear, I would say in a matter of months in terms of having something tabled in the parliament. And I'll tell you where we are in terms of the program of work. In late last year, so last quarter of 2025, we had the National Council on Education, which is an advisory outfit to the education minister vis-a-vis matters of policy. And the National Council on Education, Tyrone and listeners, is a broad-based stakeholder grouping which comprises interest stakeholders from the ecumenical groups, in other words, our churches, and of course the Jamaica Teachers Association, parents in particular, and other stakeholders, right? So they would have undertook last year and completed their review of our proposed amendments to the education regulations of 1980. At present, having regard to NCE's consultation and input, we are embarked on a series of consultations with some other key stakeholders. Just a week and a half ago at the ministry, we had a consultation with the ecumenical groups. So we had the church stakeholders in the ministry with us. Last week, the minister undertook consultations with students because they too have a voice at the table and are to be situated in this discourse as to how we right-size and make the education regulations more fit for purpose. So we have heard from our students, and there are other stakeholders like our parents and so on who will also be a part of the engagement as we seek to ultimately have a prescription table in Parliament as to how to effect better fixes to our education regulations. Because since they were promulgated in 1980, we have not had any amendments.
Minister, I appreciate you coming on, calling us. I gather you initiated the call. I respect that. And I know you are a man who does usually shy away. Yeah. So I appreciate you coming. But for the avoidance of any doubt, I'm going to bold this question to you one last time. It's my final one to you. You're part of an all-star leadership team at the ministry. Can Jamaica expect that this principal at the epicenter of this latest infraction will be held accountable? Will the team that you're a part of do everything in its powers to ensure that this principal is held accountable? That's my final question to you.
Good question, Tyrone. And what I will say is that this team of which I am a part and the ministry in general will do everything in its power to ensure that this matter receives focused attention and that the board has it in sharp focus in terms of considering what emerged and how to appropriately treat with it in terms of whether that may culminate in disciplinary action one way or another. Because as you can appreciate, I cannot utter anything that would be prejudicial to a process which may come or which really and truly is to come.
Thank you so very much.
I want to take the time, though, in 10 seconds, Tyrone, I must commend that principal. I suspect that's the principal of Red Hills Primary, who, is pictured across social media, having been issuing, warm gear to students. That is the kind of, action that we would want in a context of, a cold front, and you're seeking to help students retain a degree of warmth in relation to warm gear.
Absolutely. Your team should invite him down to the ministry and give him a medal. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is Breaking News from Nationwide Radio.
The breaking news is brought to you by the Contractor Center, providing building solutions for everyday challenges.
Interrupt the regular programming. It's a minute after 11, on Thursday, February 5, and we interrupt Cliff Hughes in line to deliver this item of breaking news. The Chief Justice, Brian Sykes, has accepted the guilty plea of former MP Julian Silvera in the death of his wife and has set sentencing for March 6. Chief Justice Brian Sykes has accepted the guilty plea of former MP Julian Silvera in the death of his wife and has set sentencing for March 6. The decision was handed down in the gun court a short while ago. Silvera had pleaded guilty to manslaughter and using a firearm to commit an offense. That's an item of breaking news right here on Nationwide 90 FM. The Chief Justice Brian Sykes has accepted the guilty plea of former PNP Member of Parliament Julian Silvera in the death of his wife, Melissa. We will have more in subsequent